too big. Just sit tight, the Korean Mafia said calm to the black woman right before she realized what was under her. Part 2. Don't move. You're mine now, he said after the explosion. The morning after the ambush. The sun rose over the city like it didn't know it had tried to kill them a few hours earlier. The penthouse was a wreck, glass, stray bullets, overturned furniture. But somehow the quiet was more unnerving than the gunfire. Amara woke up first. She lay on the couch under a heavy black coat, her heartbeat still racing from everything that happened. She remembered the gunman. She remembered Jae-won covering her with his body, shielding her like she was the only thing he cared about. And she remembered his confession on the balcony. You're under my skin. Her stomach tightened at the memory. She sat up slowly, expecting to see him nearby, but he wasn't. The room was empty. Her breath caught. Jae-won. No answer. Her pulse spiked. The room suddenly felt colder, and every terrible possibility rushed her at once. Then, click. The bedroom door opened. Jae-won stepped out, still in his torn black shirt, hair slightly damp from a rushed shower. A thin line of dried blood crossed his collarbone where he'd been grazed last night. He had a gun in one hand and a file in the other. His eyes found her instantly. Relief, fierce, deep, flashed across his face before he could hide it. You're awake, he said quietly. His voice, lower than usual, rougher, like he hadn't slept. Amara swallowed. You left the room. I thought. He set the gun on the table and crossed the room in 3 long steps. Then he did something that surprised even him. He cupped her face in both hands, tilting her up toward him. I would never leave you, he said. Not cold, not calm, but raw. Amara's breath hitched. His thumb brushed her cheek, slow and deliberate. You scared me, she whispered. You scared me more. His voice tightened. When they shot through the windows, when you were under me and shaking. He inhaled sharply. I realized I'd kill every man in this city if they touched you again. Her heart pounded. Jae-won. I'm not finished, he murmured. He lowered his forehead to hers. You think last night was an accident? He whispered. That they broke in randomly? She froze. What are you saying? He straightened, jaw clenched, eyes turning cold, but not at her. They came for you, Amara? Her blood ran cold. Why would anyone come for me? He shook his head slowly. That's what I'm going to find out. His voice hardened with the kind of promise that made entire syndicates tremble. But first, he knelt in front of her. Not as a lover. Not as a kingpin. But as a man who was terrified he might lose the one person he couldn't replace. I need you to stay with me, he said. Serious. Final. Not because you're in danger, he added, lifting his gaze to hers. But because I am if you leave. Her breath trembled. Kang Jae-won, she whispered. He reached up, sliding his hand behind her waist, pulling her just a little closer. Stay close, he said softly. Not a command. A plea wrapped in power. Amara nodded slowly. I'm not going anywhere. Something unguarded flickered through his eyes. Relief, heat, something deeper he still hadn't said out loud. He rose to his feet and extended a hand to her. Good, he murmured. Because part 2 of this mess starts now. Who sent them? The penthouse felt smaller in daylight. Shards of sunlight slipped through the torn curtains and cut across broken glass on the floor, making glitter that felt almost obscene after the violence of the night before. Amara moved slowly, touching objects as if the world might crumble at any careless gesture. Jae-won watched her from the kitchen doorway, a file clenched in one hand, his other resting on the counter. He looked, tired, raw, and more exposed than she'd ever seen him. You shouldn't be walking around alone, he said, but there was no edge to it, only concern. She looked up at him, exhaustion and a strange stubbornness in her eyes. I need to know what they wanted. I can't just sit and pretend I don't care. He closed the distance in 2 long strides and set the file on the coffee table. On top of it lay a folded photograph, a grainy police printout of the crate, stamped with a name she'd never seen before. They didn't come for the crate by accident, he said. They came for someone who knows the crate's movements. Someone who could open doors to it. Amara's fingers found the edge of the photo. So they think I can help them? Jae-won's jaw flexed. Right now they think you are a key. That's the worst kind of target. He tapped the photo with one forefinger. We need to know who sent them. Otherwise they'll keep trying. She swallowed. Who would want me as leverage? He paced thinking. Power shifts, old alliances, new players rising. Anyone with a grudge against me could use you to get to me. Or someone who wants the crate's contents badly enough to create collateral. Amara's mouth dried. Then what do we do? Jae-won sat heavily on the armchair across from her. For a rare moment he seemed to measure his words. We start where the trail begins, the dockyard camera footage, our contacts who saw the men in the neighborhood, the warehouse they scouted last month. I'll have Hyun-suk pull the footage. I'll call in a favor from someone who owes me more than his life. Amara nodded, grateful for the plan even though it offered no comfort. He paused, looking at her. You can't leave this penthouse until we find answers. It's too dangerous. Her eyes flashed. And you think you can find answers sitting here? He gave a tight smile. Not sitting. Acting. Within the hour Hyun-suk had the footage. The men had scouted multiple locations for weeks, faces masked, patterns meticulous. One thing stood out. Someone had been at the docks the day before, an unregistered liaison who didn't belong to any gang Hyun-suk recognized. Someone hired them, Hyun-suk said, voice low. And whoever did it wanted them quiet. Precise. Not sloppy. Do you recognize the supplier tag? Jae-won asked, leaning over the screen. Hyun-suk frowned. He froze the footage on the tag, a smudged logo on a shipping pallet. It was not a company name Jae-won had seen, but the design was familiar in a way that made his gut clench. That symbol, it's from a front that operated out of Busan 5 years ago, Hyun-suk said slowly. They folded overnight when a rival clan crushed them. If they're active again, something big is happening. Amara pressed her hand to her mouth. So this goes deeper than me. He looked at her then, soft, fierce. You've never been just a piece in someone else's game. Not to me. She swallowed and asked the question she'd been holding back. Why didn't they take me? Why didn't they kidnap me or? Jae-won's face hardened. Because whoever sent them wanted you alive. That means they want leverage or information. Or they want to bait me. A trap. He nodded. A trap with teeth. Later that night they drove low in a nondescript car toward the old Busan trade corridor where the front company had been rumored to operate. Rain started again. Soft at first, then harder, like the city was washing itself after the previous night's blood. They moved quietly. Jae-won kept one hand on the wheel and another on Amara's knee, small contact that anchored them both. They glided past shuttered warehouses and neon signs flickering like tired eyes until they reached a loading bay now occupied by a legitimate shipping firm. Jae-won's expression didn't change when Hyun-suk's men split to circle the perimeter. He was a man who could walk into danger and make it bend. Inside, an old foreman recognized the logo and swallowed at the mention of the name. They closed down after the raid, he rasped. But one of the supervisors stayed and worked for someone else, wouldn't say who. Hyun-suk exchanged a look with Jae-won. We need that supervisor. Jae-won nodded. Bring him in. We'll be careful. When the supervisor arrived, hands shaking, steering clear of Jae-won's shadow, he confirmed whispers of a new patron, a faceless investor pulling strings from overseas, using shell companies to buy silence and manpower. He provided a name that meant nothing to Amara until Hyun-suk translated the implication to Jae-won's voice, an alumnus of the same syndicate that once vied for Jae-won's territory, someone who had reasons to settle scores. On the drive back, the city sped by like a ribbon of lights. Amara leaned into the warmth of Jae-won's shoulder and allowed herself a rare sliver of calm. You could go after them alone, she said softly. You don't need me in the line of fire. He tightened his grip on her knee and gave a small, tired chuckle. You're stubborn in an infuriating way. And you're already in the line of fire. Besides, he turned his head to study her profile. I'd rather face whatever comes with you awake at my side than terrified under someone else's palm. Her breath hitched. For a moment it was only the two of them. The city and its enemies held briefly at bay. Outside, rain hit the windshield hard, blurring the lights. Inside the car, Jae-won's hand remained on her knee like a promise that whatever storm was coming, they'd meet it together. Don't turn around. They're watching us. The storm calmed by the time they re-entered the city, but Jae-won had that still, dangerous look again, the one Amara was learning to read like a warning label. They entered the penthouse with Hyun-suk behind them, but before the door even shut, Jae-won froze. It was subtle. A shift in the air. A tension Amara felt at the base of her spine. Hyun-suk, Jae-won murmured without turning his head. Hyun-suk's hand was already on his gun. I feel it too. Amara's heart thudded. What's wrong? Jae-won didn't answer. He stepped backward, gently placing his arm in front of her, shielding her again without thinking. He leaned close enough that his lips brushed her hair. Don't turn around, he whispered. His voice was steady, too steady. They're watching us. Amara's breath caught. Where? The rooftop opposite ours. Second window. Hyun-suk moved like smoke, checking blind spots. Thermal signatures faint. Not a sniper, probably a scout. Amara whispered, What do they want? Jae-won answered without blinking. You. Her stomach dropped. Hyun-suk pulled out a small device and checked the infrared feed. It's just one man. He's signaling someone. Jae-won's jaw flexed once. It was the kind of tension that meant he was seconds from violence. They're testing our response time, he said. They want to see how fast I protect you. So it's a message? She whispered. No, Jae-won said softly. It's a countdown. The lights go out. Before Amara could speak, every light in the penthouse went dark. A blackout. A manufactured one. Hyun-suk swore under his breath. They cut power to this grid only. Jae-won, they isolated us. The city outside still glowed bright. Their penthouse was the only shadow on the skyline. Amara's pulse hammered, but Jae-won's voice slipped into something terrifyingly calm. Hyun-suk, backup generator. Now. Hyun-suk disappeared into the hallway. Then Jae-won turned to Amara. Slowly. Deliberately. He touched her cheek, guiding her gaze to his. Don't panic, he whispered. I'm right here. His thumb brushed under her eye, a gentle gesture that felt almost out of place in the dark. But then, a red dot appeared on the wall. A laser. Amara froze. Jae-won. I see it, he murmured. He didn't let go of her face. The laser drifted slightly, searching. Sweeping across the floor. Across the couch. Across the table. Jae-won pulled Amara in until she was pressed to his chest, his body blocking her completely. If it lands on you, he whispered, I'll kill them before they breathe again. She trembled. Not from fear alone, but from the heat of him pressed against her, the certainty in his voice, the terrifying, protective intensity radiating off him. The red dot hovered. Came closer. Hyun-suk's voice crackled over their comm line. Found their signal source. I can reroute the generator in 10 seconds. Do it, Jae-won growled. Amara clutched the front of Jae-won's shirt. Why are they doing this? Jae-won didn't look away from the window. To see what you mean to me, he answered. To see if your life makes me reckless. Amara swallowed. Does it? He exhaled, a slow, honest confession. Yes. The penthouse reactivates. The lights flicked back on. Instantly. The laser dot vanished. Jae-won moved in a flash, crossing to the balcony doors. He swung them open and aimed outward, firing a single warning shot into the opposite rooftop. A scream echoed from across the gap. Hyun-suk rushed in. We have movement on that building, he's retreating. Jae-won holstered his gun. Let him run. He'll lead us to the rest. Then he turned back to Amara. And something in him cracked open. He walked straight to her, cupped her face again and rested his forehead against hers. You're not leaving my side again, he whispered. His voice was rough like the words hurt. I don't care if I have to keep you in my arms to make that true. Amara's breath trembled. Jae-won. I mean it, he murmured, his lips brushing her temple. Whoever is coming for you, they're going to learn what happens when a man like me has something to lose. His fingers slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer. And Amara? Yes, she breathed. His voice dropped to a low, intimate rasp. You're not going anywhere. Stay close. I won't let them touch you. Rain drummed against the penthouse windows as night returned, hard, relentless, like the city itself was warning them. Jae-won stood in front of the glass wall, his silhouette sharp against the lights of the skyline. His shoulders were tense, his hands buried in his pockets, his jaw clenched with a fury he wasn't trying to hide. Amara watched him from the center of the room. He hadn't spoken in minutes. And that terrified her far more than the blackout or the scout on the rooftop. When Jae-won went quiet, it meant one thing. He was planning violence. Jae-won, she said softly. He didn't turn. You should sit. She walked closer instead. Talk to me. His voice was low, rough. Amara, the man watching us earlier wasn't alone. Hyun-suk picked up 2 more signals on nearby rooftops. They're closing in. Her stomach twisted. So it was a test. Jae-won finally turned toward her. His eyes were darker than the storm outside. It was a declaration, he said. A warning. Or a threat. Or both. He stepped closer, each movement slow and controlled, but she could feel the storm building inside him. I should never have brought you into this, he murmured. She shook her head. You didn't bring me into anything. I walked in. He exhaled sharply. And I didn't stop you. His hand brushed her elbow, tentative at first, as if he wasn't sure he deserved to touch her. But when she didn't pull away, his fingers tightened slightly. You think I don't see what this is doing to you? He said quietly. You're trying to be brave, but your hands are cold. Your voice shakes. You barely sleep. Amara swallowed. I'm still here, aren't I? He looked at her like she had just said something he didn't know how to accept. Then he said it. The thing he'd been holding in his teeth since the first attack. They want you because they believe you matter to me. She held his gaze. Do I? His breath stilled. Amara? He lifted a hand, hesitated, then touched her jaw with a gentleness that contradicted every violent instinct inside him. You matter in a way I'm not supposed to feel. Her pulse jumped. He leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper rough enough to break skin. You matter enough that I'm willing to burn half this city to keep you alive. Amara felt the words like heat down her spine. But before she could answer, Hyun-suk burst into the room. Boss, there's movement on the lower decks. Jaewon's entire demeanor snapped back into lethal focus. How many? 6. Maybe more. They're searching floor by floor. Amara inhaled sharply. They're coming up here? No, Jaewon said. They're trying to. He grabbed a black tactical jacket from beside the couch and strapped a knife to his thigh. He moved with the precision of someone who had lived too long in danger to fear it. Hyun-suk checked his earpiece. Backup ETA is 5 minutes. Jaewon scoffed. They won't get here in time. Amara's pulse hammered. Then what do we do? Jaewon stepped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head up to meet his eyes. You're staying with me, he said. Every second. Every step. You do not leave my side. His hand slid to her waist, firm but protective. If anything happens. Nothing will, she whispered. He tightened his grip on her waist, the muscles in his jaw working. It won't, he echoed. Because I won't let them touch you. Not even once. Then he pulled her behind him as the elevator dinged somewhere below. Hyun-suk lifted his gun. They're coming. Jaewon didn't flinch. He placed Amara behind his back, one arm sweeping protectively across her. His voice dropped to a chilling, controlled promise. Let them come. Amara felt the shift in the air. A dangerous calm settling over him, thicker than the storm outside. Jaewon looked at her one last time. When this is over, he said quietly, we're going to talk about what you mean to me. Before she could answer. Boom. A concussive blast shook the building. Hyun-suk grabbed his gun. Amara grabbed Jaewon's arm. Jaewon stepped forward with lethal precision. Stay behind me, he whispered. I'm ending this. If they touch you, I'll lose my mind. The explosion ripped through the lower floors like a beast clawing its way upward. Concrete dust drifted from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Sirens from the building's internal alarms wailed in sharp, panicked bursts. But Jaewon didn't panic. He changed. His entire body shifted into that cold, lethal stillness Amara had only seen once before, the night he warned her not to tempt him. Hyun-suk, he said, voice flat, seal the east corridor. Block the stairs. Hyun-suk sprinted off. Jaewon grabbed Amara's wrist, not roughly but firmly, like she was the single thing tethering him to sanity. Stay close to me, he said. A command. A plea. A warning. They moved through the penthouse toward the secure hallway, Jaewon shielding her with his body every step. Amara felt his tension under her fingertips, a slow, burning fury radiating from him. Jaewon, she whispered as another tremor shook the floor, what if they break through? They won't. He didn't look back. They'd need a miracle to get past my defenses. And if they do? He stopped so suddenly she crashed lightly into his back. Then he turned, grabbed her waist and pressed her against the wall. Amara, he said, voice low, controlled, and shaking with a furious kind of protectiveness. If they touch you, if they even breathe in your direction. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly brushing hers. I will lose my mind. Her breath hitched. The danger, the closeness, the tension rolling off him, it all wrapped around her like heat. Jaewon. His hand slid up her arm, fingers trembling just slightly, the only sign he was scared. Not for himself. For her. You don't understand, he murmured. Every time there's a sound, every time something explodes, every time I blink. His voice broke on the last word. I see you getting hurt. She rested her palm against his chest. His heart was pounding. Then don't blink, she whispered. I'm right here. A muscle jumped in his jaw. He wanted to kiss her. She could feel the pull like gravity. But the sound of heavy boots in the stairwell snapped everything back into reality. Hyun-suk's voice crackled over the calm line. Boss. They breached the south entrance. Jaewon exhaled sharply, pulling himself away from her with visible effort. He pressed a gun into her hand, small, light, fitted for her grip. Amara stared at it. I've never. You won't have to use it, he said, brushing her cheek with the back of his knuckles. But I need you to hold it for me. Jaewon. It makes me feel better, he murmured. That's all. He took her hand, wrapping her fingers around the handle. I'm right here. You're not alone. Then he stepped in front of her again as shouting echoed faintly from below. Hyun-suk. Jaewon called. Report. Hyunsuk's voice came through breathless. 3 armed hostiles. They're pushing up the south wings. Are they marked? Jae-won demanded. Yes. Same symbol from the warehouse. Jae-won's expression darkened. Then they're not here to negotiate. Gunfire rattled somewhere beneath them, rapid, chaotic, metallic. Amara's grip tightened on the gun, fear and adrenaline surging through her veins. Jae-won stepped closer again, cupping her face with both hands. His thumbs brushed her cheeks as if checking she was still real. Look at me, he whispered. Not them. Me. Her gaze locked with his. You're going to live, he said. You hear me? I'm not letting anything take you from me. Her throat tightened. What? Why am I this important? His breath hitched. Almost like he hadn't expected the question. Because, he whispered, leaning his forehead to hers. You make me feel something I can't lose. Before she could answer, Hyunsuk's shout exploded through the comm line. Boss. They're at the door. Jae-won straightened slowly. His face went cold, calculating. He stepped in front of her, raising his gun. Stay behind me, he said. Hold on to my jacket if you need to. Then, boom. The door frame shook. Boots thundered closer. Jae-won's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. It's time. If they want you, they'll have to go through me. The door to the secure hallway shuddered under another impact. Boom, boom, boom. Each hit came harder, angrier, more desperate. Jae-won positioned himself between Amara and the door, gun raised, body angled forward like a shield forged in fury. Hyunsuk, he barked. Still holding them off. Hyunsuk's voice echoed through the comm line. But these guys are trained, boss, military or ex-military. They're not backing down. Jae-won grimaced. Of course they weren't. Whoever was coming for Amara had invested in professionals. The handle on the secure door twisted violently. Amara pressed her back to the wall, clutching the small weapon Jae-won had given her. Her heart hammered so loudly she could barely hear. Jae-won glanced back at her. Not to check if she was okay. To make sure she was still there. Her breathing uneven. Her hands shaking. Her eyes wide but refusing to look away. Stay focused on me, he said softly, powerfully. Not the door. Not the noise. Just me. She nodded, even though her pulse was chaos. Another violent hit slammed into the door. Jae-won stepped closer to her. He tilted her chin upward with one finger. You're doing well, he murmured. You're scared. But you're here. His thumb brushed the corner of her mouth, the gesture achingly gentle. You have no idea, he whispered. How much strength that takes. Amara swallowed hard. Jae-won. I'm holding it together because of you. A slow breath escaped him. A soft sound, almost a growl, of emotion he couldn't suppress. But then, bang. The door bent inward. Jae-won moved instantly, pressing Amara behind him with one hand and aiming with the other. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He became ice and steel, sculpted into a single purpose. Protect her. At any cost. The door cracked open. A black-gloved hand reached through. Jae-won fired. A scream. The hand fell away. Hyunsuk's voice came through again, urgent. 2 hostiles down on my end. One trying to regroup. Jae-won shouted back. Hold them. They're pushing the main entrance. Another loud boom shook the hallway. The door split at the hinges. Amara flinched, covering her ears. Jae-won turned to her, grabbed her face between his palms and forced her eyes to his. Amara, he said low and fierce. You trust me, right? She nodded without hesitation. Yes. Then listen. He leaned closer, his forehead brushing hers. If they breach this room, I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm fighting until there's no one left standing. Her breath trembled against his. Jae-won. He pulled back only enough to see her fully. If anything happens. Nothing will, she whispered. No, he said firmly. You need to hear this. His voice dropped to something raw, stripped of all defenses. I will not let them take you. I will not let them hurt you. I will not let them touch you. His hand slid down to her waist, pulling her close behind him again. They want you? Fine. His tone turned lethal. They'll have to walk through me first. Then, crack. The door collapsed inward. Black-clad figures rushed in. Amara screamed. Jae-won didn't hesitate. He moved like a force of nature, fast, precise, deadly. His first shot dropped the lead attacker instantly. The second lunged. Jae-won caught him, slammed him into the wall, twisted his wrist until a knife clattered to the floor. A third man sprinted for Amara. No. Jae-won roared, crossing the room in half a breath. He grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him backward so violently the glass wall behind him splintered. The attacker crumpled. Hyunsuk burst in from the side hallway, panting, blood on his sleeve. Boss. More incoming from the stairwell. Jaewon didn't even look away from Amara. Then we finish this, he said. No one escapes. For a second, a single heartbeat, everything went quiet. Jaewon strode back to Amara, cupping her face again, checking her for injuries with desperate hands. Are you hurt? She shook her head, breath trembling. No. I'm okay. His relief was so sharp it looked almost painful. His hand moved to the back of her head, pulling her forehead to his chest. Stay behind me, he whispered again. I'm not losing you. Then, footsteps thundered up the stairwell. Jaewon's body tensed. He stepped forward. Gun raised. Eyes burning. Hyunsuk, he growled. Let them in. The promise he shouldn't have made, asterisk. The storm finally broke around the safe house, rain thundering like gunfire on the roof. Amara sat on the bed, still wrapped in Jaewon's oversized black shirt, the fabric hanging off her shoulder like a stolen secret. Her body was exhausted. Her heart was louder than the rain. But the moment Jaewon entered the room, everything inside her sharpened. He looked like a man carrying too many ghosts, hair wet from the rain, black suit jacket dripping, expression carved from stone. Yet the moment his eyes landed on her, that stone cracked. Amara, he breathed like her name was the only thing keeping him upright. She stood slowly. Jaewon, talk to me. You didn't? Instead, he stepped forward, cupped her face gently, and pressed his forehead to hers. I shouldn't have touched you last night, he whispered. His voice was low, broken. Not when every man and soul is coming for me. When danger sticks to my name like blood. Amara's fingers slid up his chest. You make it sound like I didn't want you. His jaw flexed, guilt, desire, fear all tangled. I promised myself I'd keep you safe, even if it meant keeping my distance. He exhaled shakily. But last night, Amara, I lost all control around you. She lifted his chin so he had to look at her. You didn't lose control, she whispered. You finally told the truth. Jaewon didn't move, didn't blink. But his grip on her waist tightened, pulling her closer. You are the one thing I need most, he murmured, and the one thing I should stay away from. Amara let out a breathy laugh. You're terrible at staying away from me. His lips twitched. Yes, I am. He leaned down, brushing her mouth with his, but stopping just barely short. The tension snapped through her like a live wire. Then he whispered, voice trembling. I'll protect you, Amara. No matter what it costs me. Even if the whole mafia comes for my head. I won't let them touch you. Her breath caught. Jaewon, you can't fight everyone. His eyes darkened. Watch me. Then the door suddenly banged open. Minho, Jaewon's right-hand man, stood soaking wet, panting. Boss, Lee Myung-soo's men spotted us. They're heading this way. The air froze. Jaewon's arm wrapped around Amara instantly, instinctively, like he was shielding something precious. Minho's eyes darted to her. We need to move. Now. Amara swallowed. The moment she dreaded had come. Jaewon leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. You stay behind me. You don't run unless I tell you. She nodded, though her chest shook. He looked at her one last time, like memorizing her face. After this, he whispered, I owe you a future. I meant every touch, every word. And I'm not done with you. Then he pulled out his gun, slid beside her, and opened the door into the storm. Together, they stepped into war.